Hello and welcome to our third episode of Redefining Classroom. Over the next 30 minutes, we will discuss, ideate, and perhaps talk about how the Indian education system has been rebooted. We'll also talk about how students who are planning to go abroad and how they should really prepare themselves in this new normal. And then with our panel of experts, we'll also throw light on what exactly the Indian education system now needs to do in order to adopt and migrate with the new reality. How will schools ensure that this is not a gap year but a year of change for our students? And what should be the focus area for those who are planning to go abroad and for those who are planning to stay back in India? To discuss this topic, I have with me three people who are considered to be the absolute authority on education counseling. Mr. Viral Doshi, education counselor. Ms. Usha Albuquerque, she is career counselor. And Anshuman Das, he is CEO and co-founder with Career and Technologies. Good evening to all of you. It's a rare pleasure to have you on ET Now. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Mr. Doshi, I guess my introduction was the question in itself. What should students and parents expect for the class of 2020? Everybody is talking about the word new normal, new reboot. What can students do to make sure this is not a gap year, but this could be a year of change for them?
That's a very good question. I think this is a question which has been asked to me so often in the last couple of months. I think if we just talk about the class of 2020 and break it up into two components, the postgraduate students and the undergraduate students. For the postgraduate students, it's a very big challenge because most of them go for 1 year or 2 year programs. And typically, if you're going to have a hybrid model or even an online model, the whole experience of going to a campus life, meeting with people, working with professors is not going to be there. So I'm finding a majority of the people who have got into postgraduate admissions this year for a master's degree are tending to defer the admissions by 1 year and hopefully join next year when things are much better. As far as the undergraduate students go, I think they've got three choices very clearly in front of them. One is to, if they are able to go wherever they need to go, if the visas are available, health is taken care of, flights are available, I think the hybrid model is going to be the norm for the next couple of years to come. So if wherever they go overseas or in India, the hybrid model is going to be there for a couple of years to come. So they can go for the hybrid model and adapt to it and enjoy the college experience out there. A lot of people are hesitant because of health issues and visas not being obtained. There are two choices. Either you continue doing distance learning out here, which is a challenge by itself also, or you do a deferment for a 1 year. Now, again, for me, I would tell them, look here, do what is best for you. I don't think whatever is applicable to X is applicable to Y. So you should do it on a case-to-case basis. If you have to stay back out here and you can't go there, then distance learning is a good option to do. But you have to ask yourself, are you going to be paying this sort of money for a distance learning course? Will you be able to wake up in the night at 10 o'clock and work till 5 o'clock in the morning? So that's some of the challenges that students are going to face. So one of the alternatives is, okay, do distance learning for 1 semester and perhaps join the colleges next semester. That would be a great scenario if you have to stay back out here. Deferment is also a very big question which is being asked today. Deferment for me is a great option. In a normal year, I would recommend deferment hands down. You go travel, you do extracurricular activities, you do community service, you do research, you learn a foreign language, you do something in music. But the challenges this year with the pandemic is, how do you plan your deferment? Unless you have resources available for you to plan a deferment, I'm very hesitant to recommend a deferment to students. I would rather do distance learning and be used to the college education right up front rather than wasting the time doing a deferment. But yes, if you are able to have resources to help you to do a good deferment, then think of it very seriously, because hopefully next 1 year's time, things will improve and you'll be able to go back to where what you thought you would go and enjoy college experience. So again, for undergraduate studies, hybrid model, ideal option for me. Distance learning, I would be a bit cautious. Deferment also could be a good option, but a bit cautious. I think on a case-to-case basis, decide what is the best option for you. But what is very interesting coming out for the class of 2020 is a lot more students who are thinking of going overseas are now looking at the Indian option very seriously. Because Indian colleges have also tried to adapt to these sort of students. They're offering very interesting hybrid models, 1 year in India, 3 years abroad, or 2 years in India, 2 years abroad. Or a lot of students are even thinking, why not stay back out here in India for 3 years and do your undergraduate degree here. And you remember the old adage, undergraduate degree India, postgraduate degree abroad. That could be something which should come out of this whole pandemic, that we'll be looking at this option very, very seriously also.
Usha ji, the whole charm of visiting a campus is to perhaps meet fellow students, because going to a campus, Usha ji, is more like an osmosis of creativity, talent and sharing ideas. If the whole model is likely to morph towards hybrid learning, and I'm assuming that some part of digital and hybrid learning, which in a sense today has been adopted, is here to stay. Do you think this is going to permanently change the education system, not only in India, but also for students who want to go abroad and are planning to go abroad?
I don't think the hybrid model will be that much changed in India. In India, we have university education, which will continue. And I doubt that, I think because of while we do have a lot of online classes coming on, I think it's all going to be more temporary, because the large numbers of students that are actually attending universities in India do not have access to a continuous online education mode. So many of them may not have, internet or connections. Many of them are unable to even do some of their classes or some of the examinations online. So I'm not sure about the hybrid model being that here to stay as far as India is concerned. But yes, going out there, like Mr. Doshi has very rightly put across, that is likely to be more the scenario when you go out. But I do believe, for me, I believe education, particularly both in school and certainly at the first degree level, a formal, regular class, there is just nothing like it. The amount of learning that you do in a classroom, interacting with faculty, with other students, connecting with them, participating in various kinds of extracurricular activities, networking. A large part of networking starts in college. And continues on when you're working as well. Plus, any of the practical work that is done, that happens on regular class, regular colleges where you're actually attending classes. So I would feel that a large part of it, what is happening today, let's hope it is temporary, particularly for a large number of students who are completing, going on to college 2020. And moving on to going on to university. And in fact, among many of the students that are coming to me, the concern is actually a slightly different kind, because the concern for many of them, especially those who want to study, continue to study in India, is not where to study, but how this competition is going to get much more severe, because the many who would have actually gone out are not going out. So many of them could be good students. And therefore, to get into the colleges of my choice is going to be that much more difficult, because there are going to be many more trying to access those top positions. So this is going to be a problem this year. And I also have been advising many of the students, and I think like Mr. Doshi has also mentioned, the deferment is a wonderful option for those who are going abroad. I think taking a gap year, trying to figure out where am I going to get, I may get an upgraded institute either next year or in the spring semester. Should I look at that? Are there other opportunities that I could do? What else can I do fruitfully in the next couple of months before I actually join college abroad? I would say if you've got a plan to go abroad, keep to that, look at a gap year. And as far as the kids who are completing, going into colleges in India, I would say look at very many more options. There are many, many universities, again, like was mentioned, many that are following the international model, that have many more open liberal systems of interdisciplinary subjects, more classroom interaction, practical learning, course curriculum that is very wide, opportunities to travel outside. So many of these, I would say that is more the hybrid today than the way in which we're doing part-time online and part-time classroom options.
Anshuman, I guess the consensus view seems to be that for students who want to go abroad, they should consider staying back. It may be a bad word, bad word to say that it could be a gap year, but this could be a life-changing year. So my question, Anshuman, is that what should students do who decide not to apply this year? How can they make sure that this 1 year of their life is actually a year which will be counted? What are the skills which they should do? What are the skills and what are the things you think colleges are likely to consider because of this gap year? If they've done it, it will make their future life and future admission process rather easy.
So I think, Nikunj, the way at least I see it is the way education system in India is, we all study from class 1st to class 12th, and then we typically consider not much as a break in between and quickly move on to graduation and then quickly move on to post-graduation. And when I actually go back and look, in some form and shape, if you actually are taking a 1 year break between your till 12th and graduation, it's a very important way in which you can discover yourself, that what is the objective of why you are going outside and abroad and study. Because one thing which I have seen is a lot of the students who are going abroad and studying, they probably come from a very good, well-to-do families kind of a thing, and probably for them, maybe there is a financial motive to get educated and earn well kind of a thing. But probably for a lot of them, it is also a very important reason to discover that what are they expecting in these 4 years to come by kind of a thing. And it could be a very good method to take us like a step back and figure out and discover yourself what I'm expecting. Because many a times, the way I've seen in India, for us children, the decision is many a times made by the parent. And I think at this stage where a child can discover more about what are their interest areas, how they could hone about their skills, I think that would be a very important step. What I also believe is there is a particular way of studying which we were used to, which was a very offline, physical way of working in. And that is going to stay, that is not going to go away. But what is definitely going to happen is the digital is going to become a part of our life moving forward, which essentially means that the way you look at today e-commerce, we always were all used to a retail store kind of a thing, but today I would say e-commerce and retail both are going hand in hand today. So from that point of view, for any future education to happen, I think digital is also going to be augmented with physical education. And digital does not mean that it replaces our universities or dorms or those kind of a thing. It essentially means that tomorrow there's a good professor sitting in Spain and the child is sitting in Brazil. I think the professor in Spain can very clearly give those lectures and run a lective on top of that. So which means that how do you really get trained digitally?
Fair
I
point.
think yeah. So
Fair point. I mean, how education system will morph from being a symmetric based or symmetric delivery based system to an asymmetric delivery system. Mr. Doshi, this question is coming your way, and I'm asking everyone from the education fraternity to address a very simple question meant for all students and all parents. What is the right age? What is the right time you think parents in India should start preparing for the education of their children? At what time should they actively consider to take important and life-changing decisions which could influence, make, break or shape the life of their kids?
There's a question very close to my heart, what you just described right now, because whenever parents and students have come to meet me, and the first thing is, what should I do at undergraduate degree after my 12th? And my one answer has always been, do something which you enjoy. Because eventually in life, it's not your undergraduate degree which is going to count, it's going to be your postgraduate qualification. The challenge is, again, how do people typically decide careers in our country? One, I find, is family influence. If you're from legal family or a medical family, you tend to look at that career a little more seriously. Two is by peer group pressure. Okay, I want to do business, let's all do business together. Talking about four things that people typically make careers out of. But typically, if you plan a career, what do I tell a child? Typically, in your 9th or the 10th grade, try and undertake what is called a psychometric test. Because the psychometric test is a test in which we analyze your strengths and weaknesses, your aptitude and your interest. And we merge all three together to see what is the best career option for you. For example, you may want to do engineering. You may not have the aptitude. Or you may have aptitude to do architecture. So why don't you go and look at architecture seriously? And once you do a psychometric test or an aptitude test, you list out 2 to 3 careers which are suitable for you. I tell students, go and read more about these careers. Then number 3, go and talk and speak to professionals in fields that you want to pursue your career in. And 4, try and if you can, to do some job sharing where you go and see what these people careers are all about. If you do all these four combinations, they have a much better idea as to what is the best career option for you. And typically a right time to do it would be sometime around grade 9 and grade 10, I would say. That's a good time because in India, we have to plan what to do in 11th and 12th, typically by the end of grade 10. So 9th and 10th is a good time to do career planning, I would say. And if they can do these 4 steps, I find it very useful in planning their careers, because today in India, unfortunately, careers are not planned by the students, planned by the parents. Parents sometimes are trying to influence their own decision-making on children. They also want to fulfill their own plans of careers to their own children, which they couldn't fulfill the planning to their own children. So I think you have to give them space today. And if you want to give them space, go through a scientific method of doing this aptitude testing.
Usha ji, my next question to you is, what is your view on the Indian education system, Usha ji, considering that Indian education system, some would argue, is really not flexible? Do you think Indian education system has really adopted to the need of the hour, whether it is pre-COVID or post-COVID? Do you think Indian education system will be able to understand what the future need of the society is, and is it really evolving as per the need of the world? Usha ji.
You know, the question is such that I don't think even one program is sufficient to cover the Indian education system, which is both good and extremely bad. It's good in the sense that there is tremendous learning that does happen. And if we look at the numbers that are actually going to school, I think we've come a long way in that field. But I think in terms of the learning, there is a huge gap. And I think that is largely the reason why so many kids want to go out to study, because they do not think that their learning is adequate to prepare them for life in whatever career they may want to take.
Mr. Doshi, I have one more follow-up question for you as we reach the last couple of questions with all of you. My question to you, Mr. Doshi, is that what would be the new normal for college application? What will be the new normal for assessment? I'm sure you must have spoken to your counterparts. You must have spoken to some of your friends and associates in various universities. Is the COVID crisis going to change some basic admission criteria for big and for some of the Ivy League colleges also?
I think if you just divide it into 2 parts, as far as India is concerned, I don't think too much is going to change. I think it's going to be based on your marks, typically in typical universities like DU or Mumbai University, or based on entrance tests that a lot of universities have in India. But as far as going overseas is concerned, where they had criteria for admission, which was based on academics, your standardized tests, your extracurricular activities, your recommendations and essays, I think that will go through a change, because at the end of the day, do remember, with standardized tests getting cancelled or being postponed, they won't have that tool to evaluate students. Number 2, in the pandemic, how do you do extracurricular activities? So that's also going to be something to be revalued. So what I'm understanding from colleges overseas, especially the top universities, I think heavy weightage is going to be given to academics. Admissions are based on academics. And that's always been the main fulcrum of people being admitted to top colleges. And we shouldn't forget that. And that's what we have to come back to again. Come back to academics, focus on academics. Believe me, there'll be a secret of success. And if you analyze any of the students who went to top colleges, it was always because of academics. Yes, they had extracurricular activities, they had standardized tests, but eventually the academics was very strong. I think we're going to go back, circling again to that time for the next few years when we have this temporary disruption which is taking place.
It's a great point. Usha ji, if I may request you to share your thoughts on the same point, that do you think because of this crisis there could be a permanent change in the way how college selection and college assessment criteria would move?
Not really. I think they will remain the same, as Mr. Doshi very rightly said. Academics will remain important. But I think if we're looking at India, I think the criteria for selection may change now, because there's been some kind of feeling that, how high can these marks go? And if we're just doing it based on cutoffs, then it's going to make it very difficult for students who are average students who may not have get the kind of marks that are required to get into good colleges. So I think over a period of time, there's going to be a rethink, at least I hope so, on how those admissions can be done. Build up your academics, If possible, if you're not able to get a good placement this year, or you're looking at maybe online courses and hybrid courses that you're not very comfortable with, defer the admission, wait until next year, and in the meantime, do something that will enhance your application next year. Do volunteer work, do internship work, take on some courses, build skills, pick up a language. There are umpteen things. And in fact, lots of young people I know are doing it and using it as a time to learn and build themselves up.
Right. Let me just get one closing comment from Anshuman before we wrap this. Anshuman, a very simple question, but perhaps a question which is the most important question, which is that what will be the importance of online education in today's world? There are a lot of universities, there are a lot of platforms which are offering you skill, which are courses which have been done and conducted by best of the professors. How do you see the importance of this in today's world?
So, I think online education, Nikunj, is going to stay here. It's not something which is not going to go. And I think there are definite merits and demerits. The merits are clearly, you know what you are getting into, you are very clear of your objectives, and it is not something that will tremendously change your personality or change your overall DNA from that point of view, which our physical education does, because physical education is a lot about peer-to-peer learning, softer skill development, a lot about overall personality development from that point of view. But I think online education is a good medium and a method to acquire specific skills, to acquire a specific particular knowledge area, which you can essentially are passionate about. And I think from that point of view, that is going to be very clearly being very useful into your overall career journey at various stages. It is not only at your K-12 education or your undergrad or your postgrad, even, and I would say when you get into really professional courses and when you get into job and when you want to do any further 3 month, 6 month program, you may actually see that at that stage, there will be a very, very reasonable transformation happening where people will actually do 2 month courses in an online manner versus particularly taking a sabbatical and going out from a job and doing it. I think at those places, the online education will fit and probably could be even a replacement to the way the courses were happening in terms of going for a month or 2 months. I don't think online education is here to replace the formal degree education or post-degree. It is going to amalgamate, and probably what will happen is about 80% or 70% will still remain the physical education, the offline education, and maybe 20-30% of courses may essentially start becoming online education. So clearly, I think there is a lot. I would say it provides a very wide access of tutors across the world from that point of view, because today there may be a lecture happening from all the great professors sitting in Stanford, and you could probably just be a part of it and say that, let me really go and absorb that. So, and I think it is going to stay. It is not something which is going away anywhere, and it is going to increase, but probably it is not a replacement to what our traditional education has been.
We've had a fascinating chat and we've covered a range of topics. I'm sure today's show is really going to clear a lot of doubts and is going to be a guiding tool for a lot of students and parents who in a sense are really trying to understand that how can they really align, plan and prepare their life in this new normal. Mr. Doshi, Ushaji, Anshuman, many thanks to all of you and thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and I hope to certainly see much more of you going forward on ET Now.